Today on Earth Focus, water. Miles Benson looks at the challenge of running dry. 3 states battle over the Chattahoochee River. A new film shows why. Journalist Stephen Sapienza on getting safe water to urban slums in Bangladesh. A simple technology provides clean drinking water for millions. And dealing with the legacy of coal. Acid mine drainage in America's rivers. Coming up on Earth Focus.
I love to start my day standing under a hot shower for as long as I please. Why not? Our water supply is endless, right? Wrong.
In the years ahead, and this is the next 10 to 30 years, we're going to see dramatic declines in the amount of water that's available in the Colorado River and the Rio Grande River. And then on top of that, you put additional shortages of water while you also have increasing demands. It's going to be a very tough time. And so I think the water management challenge is really the biggest challenge. You start thinking about cities like El Paso, Albuquerque, Phoenix, San Diego. We talk to the water managers of the Colorado River, and many of them are Republican, many of them are Democrat. They know they have to get ahead of what's going to be happening with respect to the decline in precipitation in the Colorado River.
And the threat is not just in the West. People in the Southeast increasingly are divided over water too. Rhett Turner and Jonathan Wickham have made a film about that.
Whiskey is for drinking. Water is for fighting over. This scrappy pronouncement is attributed to Mark Twain. Even he would have had trouble imagining it would one day apply to a place not far from where Huck and Jim floated downstream to the river-rich southeastern United States. The source of this conflict that has cost millions of dollars in lawsuits begins as a beautiful spring cascading through the wooded slopes of the North Georgia mountains, the Chattahoochee. The mountain stream is soon captured in the first and largest of 4 federal reservoirs, Lake Lanier. It's where over 6 million people get their water supply and send their wastewater. It generates electricity and provides cooling for coal, gas, and nuclear power stations. It supports agriculture, industry, recreation, and aquatic life. It belongs to everybody, those living upstream and those living down. For 20 years, Georgia, Florida, and Alabama have been locked in a bitter rivalry over one river basin.
Rhett Turner, Jonathan Wickham, you made a film about the Chattahoochee River. Rhett, you grew up there. You're not a carpetbagger. Why did you want to make a film about the river that you know so well?
I was watching the news on one of my times. I was on a break a little bit and watching news. I was watching BBC World Service, and they did a news story about Lake Lanier and its low levels, and they were saying this was a record low level situation. So I was watching that, and I was alarmed, and it was in my backyard. I go, I live there. I can do something here.
Jonathan Wickham, you wrote the narrative for this film. What was it you were trying to convey?
There's one key quote, I guess, in the in the film that I think kind of captures that. There's one person who says, it used to be a war that was fought between the states. Now it's a war that's being fought in people's homes. And that's, I think, what I'm trying to do, is to get this debate into something that everybody is having about how much water they use and what they use it for.
Almost all of us are downstream of somebody else. And the way Eastern water law was set up is you can use the water, but you're supposed to send it on downstream in the same quality that you got it, so the guy downstream of you can use it.
But those downstream worry that their share is dwindling due to rapid growth upstream in metro Atlanta. Meanwhile, upstreamers fear that a judge's ruling may deprive them of a significant portion of the supply they've grown to depend on. As demands for water increase, sharing it only gets harder. This film looks at how individuals and communities up and down this 19,000 square mile river basin are striving to come to terms with the new reality of water in the Southeast.
It's a complex subject. A number of people in our documentary say this is a complex issue. So I wanted to break it down into ways that basically anybody watching this thing could understand how the river worked, who the various demands that were placed upon it, and think about how you could start to balance out those different needs.
In the Florida Panhandle at the mouth of the Apalachicola River, Bevan Putnell has been harvesting oysters for 50 years.
It's important that we get water year-round to keep this bait going and keep it profitable.
Joe O'Grady lives in Seal, Alabama, but every day he drives to Columbus, Georgia. He works at a large Kodak plant that uses millions of gallons of water to make printing plates.
Water is extremely important. It's important for us now to sustain us, and it's important for our future and our kids' future.
Sally Bethay heads upriver to monitor dissolved oxygen levels at the mouth of Peachtree Creek, just below where the city of Atlanta draws its water supply.
It's a liquid lifeline, this river is, for millions of people. And for me personally, it's the place I grew up.
In this film, what's the takeaway message?
The takeaway message is that this film was about putting together a primer for our state governors and state legislatures to understand what's at stake and how important that resource is. Now they have a primer, and now they have an understanding, and now they can understand what the issues are between Florida and Alabama to be able to go, okay, I can make a decision, and now I can want to talk to them a little bit better.
John Wickham, Rhett Turner, thank you very much. It's easy for me to wash dishes. Just turn on the spigot and the water flows. But urban slum dwellers in the world's poorest cities aren't so lucky. Steve Sapienza has told me about an initiative that's working in Bangladesh.
Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, is one of the world's fastest growing cities and one of the poorest. As in many other developing countries, people are leaving the countryside in search of work and a better life in the city. Dhaka's population, now estimated at 15 million, is expected to hit 20 million by 2025. Dhaka is one of the fastest growing cities in Asia, and most of these people that are new arrivals to the city are, by and large, end up living in slums.
Most of them don't have ownership over those pieces of land that they're residing. But the main challenge is provisioning essential services for this huge number of population, mainly water and sanitation.
With 2,000 newcomers daily, the struggle to find clean water in the slums often has life-threatening consequences. If you want to see the human toll exacted by unsafe water and poor sanitation in Dhaka, you come here. This is the overflow tent at the short stay unit at Dhaka's main cholera and diarrhea hospital. This man arrived at the hospital with no vital signs. After 15 minutes of trying to revive him, his wife is given the news. The staff records cholera as the cause of death. The hospital's lead research scientist, Dr. S.K. Roy, and his colleagues work around the clock 365 days a year to save lives threatened by waterborne illness. The majority of the patients here are the urban poor, and the hospital care is free. Part of the big problem in supplying water to the poor, they do not own the land. So these people have been unable to connect to city water services. And so what they end up doing is paying high prices. They pay almost 15 times more than a person connected to the city water service for their water. And that's because they have to buy water on the black market. They have to buy water from these guys who are water sharks. They drive these carts around and they sell bottled water. They also end up spending a lot of money purifying bad water. So a good chunk of their paycheck every month will go to buying some water, getting sick on this water, and having to purify it. So the poor they're really at a disadvantage when it comes to accessing city water.
DWASA was with the system that was tied with house ownership. That actually pushed us to talk with Dhaka Wasa that why it is not possible to provide water to slum dwellers.
Deebalak Singh lobbied the city to give a water license to his startup NGO on behalf of slum communities.
They explained at that time that they are giving water only to people who has their own houses. So we tried to facilitate that service to slums, linking them with the Dhaka Water and Sewerage Authority.
Linking slums to city water services meant Deebalak's NGO assumed the risk if the slum dwellers failed to pay their water bills. But Deebalak knew the slum dwellers, who pay 15 times the DWASA rate for water on the black market, would pay their bills.
A win-win situation actually occurred because Dhaka Wasa, they wanted their revenues. On the other hand, poor people, they want the service. And they immediately see the economic advantage of getting access to Dhaka Wasa water supply because that is cheap in comparison to private market.
When I started this project, I was thinking that urbanization was the evil in creating all these water and sanitation problems. And what I was surprised to learn was that urbanization, as a matter of course, is going to happen, and that the real lesson that can be learned from what's happening in Dhaka is that it is possible to improve water and sanitation, even in countries where it seems like it might be hopeless. In Dhaka, they have overcome and done a lot with very little, and they've really managed to extend their services and their water services just by changing their thinking and looking at slum dwellers as people who not only deserve to have a city water hookup, but can afford to pay for it and are more than willing to do so. NGO-backed water access points like this one are now sprouting up in the slums all over Dhaka. Each community forms a water committee that pays to install the pump and for the costs of operation and maintenance. These committees also collect and pay the water bills. The success of earlier NGO-backed water points now enables community groups in slums to negotiate directly with the city for legal water access without NGO help. Most of the NGOs, the large water advocacy NGOs, and even members of Dhaka Water and Sewer Authority they're pretty proud of what they've achieved in bringing the water to these slums. They're looking forward to scaling up these water to slum connections in the coming years.
I can fill a glass with water and never worry about getting sick. But that's risky business for more than 1 billion of the world's people. Can we do something about it? Dr. Greg Allgood already is.
An Audie John is 1 in a billion, because 1 billion people living in the developing world don't have clean water to drink. It's an epidemic that is getting worse every year, but there is promise.
Water is the most important thing in our lives. We depend on water for everything, for cooking, cleaning, giving to our children. This is why we walk 6 kilometers every day to get to water. Our water is not clean to drink, and we don't have anything to cure the water. Without clean water, there is no life.
Dr. Greg Allgood, the world has some serious problems with water. You have a serious answer. What is it?
Well, it is a huge global problem. More children die from diarrhea caused by unsafe drinking water and lack of sanitation than from HIV/AIDS and malaria combined. It's a huge problem. And because of that, we need a variety of solutions to address it. The good news is that those solutions are there. They're scalable, they're cost-effective, they're proven. And we just need to get out there and provide them.
You've been doing this for a long time, but what is it you really do, and how does it work?
Well, I'm blessed to lead the P&G Children's Safe Drinking Water Program. That's an effort to provide a technology that P&G developed in a collaboration with the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And importantly, we provide this product through partner groups, more than 100 in more than 60 countries.
It's motivation when you can take someone's dirty water and make it clean. It sort of goes to my belief that if you give people the tools to help themselves, that they will. So, my name is Dr. Greg Allgood, and we're going to make some water clean using these pure packets.
So what P&G did was develop a small packet, a water purifier, pure purifier of water. And you add 1 packet to 10 liters of water. You stir for 5 minutes, you let it settle, you pour it through a cloth, you wait 20 minutes, and the water's ready to drink.
Pure works in 3 ways. First, it removes the dirt, worms, and parasites that are in the water. Second, it kills the bacteria and viruses that will make you sick. And then Pure leaves lasting protection so your water stays safe for several days.
How much water will that little packet clean?
So the Pure packet treats 10 liters of water. That's enough for most families' drinking water needs for 1 or 2 days. And we can provide it for only pennies. The truth is, people in the developing world pay for water typically, and they certainly pay a price for the health impact of unclean drinking water. So providing solutions like the Pure packets provide a huge economic advantage, not having to go to the clinic, being able to work and go to school. These are huge impacts on health.
Some people might call this a stopgap solution. Is there a long-term solution to the problem?
Well, here's the way to think about it. 4,000 children will die today because of not having safe drinking water. We simply can't stand by and wait for them to have solutions like this that are proven and that are scalable. Now, what we want to happen is for everybody to have clean drinking water that comes out of our faucets, just like you and I have. That's the desired end game, but that's going to require an investment of billions, and for some people, that's not going to happen in our lifetime.
How's it taste? Masabi. It tastes good, huh? Yeah, so we're going to give Ignati this box
of Pure.
Atakupa hii boksi ya hii dawa ya Pure.
So there's enough for 2,400 liters of clean water. Thumbs up?
I'm a member of the village council, and we have been trying to find ways to protect people from disease in the water. If we can have clean water, we can have a better life.
Women are really the heroes in addressing the global water crisis because they can use Pure to treat their drinking water and to make their family healthy. And that's what mothers want the most.
And I can tell you there's nothing more rewarding than giving a mother a tool to make water safe for her family. There's nothing more beautiful than seeing a person having truly clean drinking water for maybe the first time in their life.
You may not think electricity is a water issue, but it is. Coal mining can adversely affect water quality too.
The waters of Maryland in the North Branch of the Potomac River and in Pennsylvania in the Susquehanna River system in the West Branch in particular, acid mine drainage is the major water quality impediment. In western Maryland, like in most of Appalachia, king is coal. They call it king coal. And what coal wanted, coal got. Some of the worst environmental devastation on the face of North America is occurring in Appalachia right now. It isn't the coal mining itself. It isn't coal that produces the acid mine drainage. It's the extraction of the coal and then exposing the pyrite, which is plentiful, and then the pyrite exposed to oxygen and water leaches out as sulfuric acid and as iron.
When these were active mines, there really was very little acid water and metals getting into the receiving streams because the mines were being pumped constantly so the miners could work in them. When they were tapped out, so to speak, or was no longer economically feasible to extract coal from the mines were abandoned and then they filled up with water. And that's when AMD started. Your first time in looking at AMD is, if you've never seen it before, it's very shocking. You'll walk into a stream and it's nice clear water, pristine looking water, and then suddenly it turns red, orange, depending upon what is being discharged.
The Kettle Creek's been a godsend to me over the years. It's just one of the better streams, and it's like eating candy. You get a favorite, and Kettle Creek is my favorite.
Kettle Creek is a great stream. It's an exceptional value stream. However, the lower section, 7 miles, is greatly impacted by AMD, which it is the watershed's hope and mine that at some point in time we are going to be able to clean it up enough to support trout life and aquatic life.
Okay, now we're going to go over here and see what this acid looks like. pH has to be about 5.5 for aquatic life to live. Looks like we're going to get down into 2s. This is really bad water. There's nothing can live in this stream, positively nothing. No bugs, no fish, no aquatic life whatsoever.
The 7 miles, it is affected by the AMD. It affects the west branch of the Susquehanna and eventually the Chesapeake Bay and everybody downstream of this particular area. And it is one of the highest concentrations of AMD being produced in the state is coming out of the lower Kettle Creek. Whether or not we can get the water quality to the original status is probably very questionable. I don't think that anybody expects that that'll ever happen. I think the best you can do is hope that you get it at least down to the portion where it's acceptable to the fish life and the aquatic life.
Passive treatments work as a combination of ponds connected together, where you have receiving water for your AMD, then filtering down through compost, oftentimes mushroom compost, and then limestone below that. So the compost oftentimes then takes out your metals of aluminum and iron, and then goes through the limestone to increase the pH of the water. So it's been a very good success story.
There's so many people that say they're concerned with the environment and consume so much electricity. That electricity isn't coming from lightning. It's coming from coal burning, 54% of it on average.
If you clean up the water and then you utilize the water for a benefit, a recreational benefit, it becomes a tremendous economic development tool.
There's always something to do along a stream. You can get involved in committees, you can do all kinds of things if you really want to. I'd hate to think about a grandson that didn't have the opportunity to come to a stream and fish it, fly fish the way I have.
Now on U.S. airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.